Nottingham Forest fans, it feels like we're going to get to know each other very, very well this year, as you have just went and appointed Ange Postecoglou as your new manager to replace Nuno Espirito Santo. Now, I know Nuno goes with a heavy heart and a lot of you guys were really attached to him, and he did great last year, and it was very surprising to see the friction, the tension build up between him and the owner over the last couple of months, despite all the on-pitch success. And even as we went through the summer transfer window, you guys have been going out there and really pushing the boat out, bringing in some massive signings, some big money names, and some players that, you know, aren't just emerging talents around European football, but some players that really, if you know a thing or two, are elite level talents. And the squad that Forest have got at their disposal, everything was set up to be a very special season. And I know a lot of you guys will be worried and thinking like, oh no, we were on this trajectory and now where are we going? In the video today, we'll look at the squad and talk about how it really does fit Ange Postecoglou down to a T, and how I think this might be a marriage made in heaven. At any point in the video, if you laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And Forest fans, get into the comment section and let me know your feelings, your takeaways, where you sit right now with what the season outlook is for you, and how you think Big Ange is going to do in the dugout for you. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into this one, because Forest has been a club and a topic, I suppose, in the transfer window I've thoroughly enjoyed watching. And this is the state of the squad last time we visited them here on the channel. But since then, there's been a few more moving parts, there's been a few more moving pieces. Forest at the end of the transfer window going out, adding in a new goalkeeper, a new left back, a new right back, and some more forward support, which has seen the likes of Zinchenko come in, Savona, the right back from Juventus, of course, as well as Dylan Bakwa. And then we've had some other kind of tertiary squad players move out, as well as a new number one goalkeeper, Big John, coming in, which felt like it was something that was in the offing. And now where we find the Nottingham Forest squad is perfectly balanced. The last time we were looking at this, we were talking about the fullback areas and how Nico Williams, the right-footed left-back, kind of needs someone else in there that can raise the level of the Forest defence, but also, you know, job share with him, you know, carry the load across the season. And the same goes for Savona coming in for Ola Aina. With Savona, he feels very much more like a backup to Ola Aina, whereas Zinchenko could be the one that becomes a best 11 player. We were speaking last time about Douglas Luiz coming in, of course, as well as the likes of McAtee. But we can now add in Dylan Bakwa into the attacking fold here. And when you look at the amount of players Forest have in every section of the pitch, defence, midfield and attack, not only quality options, but numbers and versatility, where under the last manager, that versatility would have been a bit more valuable, would have been a bit more useful. And under Ange Postecoglou, it maybe just gives him some different weapons in his arsenal to rotate the squad and to maybe finesse the team depending on the strength, the level of opponent that he's facing. Now, we'll see in the fullness of time how the team shakes out. The first game is against Arsenal, and Zinchenko can't play in it, of course, as well. But if we look at the bones of the team here and try to think of what the best 11 could look like and how Ange Ball is going to work for Nottingham Forest, I think this will be quite close to what we maybe come to see as the recognised best 11. Now, I've seen a lot of Forest fans very quickly off the mark saying the likes of Milinkovic and Murillo are far too slow to be pitched up on the halfway line to do the Mickey van de Ven recovery role, and I think you're probably quite right there. But between the centre-backs and the goalkeeper, I would be very open, as I am with a lot of areas in the pitch here, to a little bit of adaptation, or maybe a little bit of repurposing of maybe the team, the squad, maybe some players find a new position, that kind of thing. But Ange's got this reputation of being very gung-ho and, you know, throw caution to the wind and who cares, let's just go and attack, and if we concede goals, we'll deal with that later. And I think that's a bit unfair. I don't think that's characteristically very accurate, to be honest with you. If you look at his time at Celtic, that was certainly the way he built the defence, and we did concede a lot of goals, but the Celtic defence is very low standard and was very thin for a lot of the time that we had Ange. And when you look at the Tottenham defence, that period where they were very successful domestically, and if you look at how, you know, the European run went, they were very good defensively, and it was a case of them having their best defence together. It was signing defenders and goalkeepers one after the other with people getting injured, and the whole thing being an absolute can of worms, a bag of worms, bag of frogs, can of worms, whatever. And I do think Milinkovic and Murillo are very much in the mould of Ange's first centre-back pairing that he had at Celtic, and the likes of Cameron Carter-Vickers and Carl Starfelt, which are players that are not going to be gracing the Premier League. Starfelt does pretty well in La Liga, but Carter-Vickers, yeah, anyway, by the by. So I don't have any real worry or faith that the likes of Milinkovic and Murillo are going to be hung out to dry, because Ange does ask his defenders to defend first and foremost. There's no two ways about it. But guys that really do drag the Titanic across the pitch with them, he's not going to be pitching them up into the halfway line. He's going to give them some extra yardage. And I think this will also paint into the situation with the goalkeeper. Now, Matt Sells has been a hero, of course. I don't think there's any space for Angus Gunn to become the Forest #1 goalkeeper. Feels very much like one of those homegrown number 3 positions here, having came through the Man City Academy. He counts as a domestic kind of graduate in that regard for European squad purposes. But the boy John, if he's got the sweeper keepers in him, if he's a guy that's a bit similar to like a Pickford or an Ederson or an Alisson, those types of guys that like to peruse the edge of the box and sweep up in and behind the defence, that might be the catalyst to maybe get them a little bit higher up the pitch than any of us would agree that they would be comfortable in, just to make sure that zone for balls in behind, they've got someone there just to be a threat and put the opposition off playing it. So I think the goalkeeper is something that'll be interesting to watch out for, but I don't think Ange, just to kind of allay your fears in the first instance, is not going to be, just throwing you've conceded goals. Obviously every team concedes goals, but I don't think he's going to be hanging the defence out there. And it's a defence I did want to pay some attention on here, because we've seen it at Tottenham with Destiny Udogie, we've seen it at Celtic with Greg Taylor. Ange loves the inverted fullback role, and I do, in this conversation, feel bad for Zinchenko in a way, because a fantastic inverted fullback or midfielder playing left back for Man City and won all sorts of stuff and was in their best 11 despite them signing players to bench him. He moves to Arsenal to play midfield, but Mikel Arteta didn't follow through on his promises and kept him at left back. And really, for him, looking at the Nottingham Forest team, I don't think he can be imagining that he's going to come in here and play midfield. This loan move feels very much like it is to play left back and to be the best choice left back. But his experience playing at Man City, playing at Arsenal under Arteta and Pep in that inverted fullback position, this is potentially the best not potentially, it should be the best left inverted fullback that Ange has had at his disposal. And if you go back and look at the good moments you've seen of Destiny Udogie, and you can look at Greg Taylor at Celtic for what that's worth, this is the linchpin of the system really activating and really causing so many teams different problems, because the way Ange is going to build this up is between the midfield and the centre backs. He's going to have that as a defensive responsibility. The right back, Pedro Porros, Alistair Johnsons, these types of players he's had before are going to be quite traditional right backs, in the sense of they'll cover their winger, they might bomb on and support if it's appropriate, but they're very much a right back in this sense. And by having this kind of box midfield, which again we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a second, and that kind of wing play on the right hand side, this left inverted fullback in possession gets free rein to really roam anywhere. And when you're playing against teams, if you think about Nottingham Forest, right, and the teams that you're likely to play 50, 60, 70% of the season, where you're probably the favourite, if not Forest are edging it, they should be dominating possession, have the lion's share of the chances, that sort of thing. You're going to be against teams that are banked in, very organised and very resolute. And having this wild card player that can just pop up in a number of different positions to overload and support the attack is a great skeleton key to unlock these defences. And I think Zinchenko could be on for maybe one of his best Premier League campaigns, playing under a manager that will really let him not start in midfield, but for all intents and purposes, once the ball gets rolling, kickoff has happened, you're going to get in there anyway. And that's to obviously get him around the pitch and wildcard like we spoke about. But in the build-up, in the transition of play as it were, he's going to be coming in here with Douglas Luiz to form the engine room and let Elliot Anderson off the leash a lot more, which I think all you guys would agree is probably going to be a massive benefit to Nottingham Forest, because Elliot Anderson, now capped for England, seems to be, alongside Morgan Gibbs-White, one of the real talisman, one of the real poster childs of the squad of this kind of generation, moving up the gears, moving up the table, competing in Europe, maybe competing in some cups, that sort of thing. And he's very good going box to box, but I think if he has some extra cover behind him and you can get him off the leash a lot more, you'll find a lot more openings for the attacking players. You might see Gibbs-White playing a bit better because there's less pressure on him to drive around the pitch and get on the ball if he's got someone else that can help him do that. And I think genuinely, like, every player I'm looking at here, I think the energy and the tempo that they all have, the technique and the on-pitch IQ, it's a very important thing for Ange Ball, is going to be right up there. Every player I'm looking at right now is an elite level performer, has played at a very high end at Forest or previous to Forest, and I really just don't see there being any hitches here, really. Douglas Luiz is going to be the centre of gravity, I would imagine. It could be someone like Sangar, maybe it could be Elliot Anderson, and there's a bit of a tweak to what I see going on here, but I feel very much that Douglas Luiz is going to be the shield across the back line, the guy that has that arsenal, that range of passing to find the wide players on the breakaway, to maybe try and hit it up to the front man to then play off him and around him. And I think he, alongside this, Morgan Gibbs White attack midfield, Elliot Anderson box to box, and having free rein to go all around the pitch, and then Zinchenko to cover in with him or to go on and support, it really has the makings of working fantastically well. And like I've already mentioned, there is a lot of options in the defence and in the midfield where there might be a bit of a shake-up. Could there be some sort of back three that emerges out of this and you bring someone like Morato into the picture on a more permanent basis? I'm not too sure. Does he maybe prefer someone like Savona to Ola Aina? I've not seen enough of Savona to really pass comment. Could it even be someone like Nico Williams that comes into the right back spot as well? I wouldn't rule that out. And like I said earlier, failing something like Sangar maybe being preferred to Douglas Luiz in this type of position, maybe you then move Elliot Anderson into the number 10, maybe get Morgan Gibbs White into a different position. I don't really see there being that much flexibility from what Ange is going to do with this midfield with the players that are there. McAtee is very versatile and very exciting. I can see him featuring off the bench very regularly. Similar with Hutchison, either in wide areas or different number 10 kind of roles depending on the game and how everything's went. But for me, the real question mark and the real exciting part of what is Ange going to do with this team really does fall into the front line, because I think this back seven here, we can chat about the goal, we've already spoke about the goalkeeper. If we put them to one side, it does kind of fall into line quite easily. Now, I told all you guys Dan N'Doye is a top-end player, and if he does as well as I suspected he would, he started off really well so far. This is a player you'll probably be linked to selling for 50, 60, 70 million euros in due course. And I think he is going to be a mainstay in this team. He has high energy, high tempo, very good game IQ, never stops, never quits attitude. And on this right-hand side, I think this position is probably going to be sewn up as his own. And I think Callum Hudson-Odoi, again, has got great dribbling skills, very direct, and will suit Ange down to a T. But where I think the interesting part comes here is the centre forward, because Chris Wood has been phenomenal up front for Nottingham Forest. And if you think back to Ange's Tottenham Hotspur, in the aftermath of losing Harry Kane, Richarlison and Solanke were his main strikers, and neither one of them were the same sort of profile that we'd seen at Celtic, kind of like the Daisen Maedas and the Kyogo Furahashis, where they were very nippy and were mega press, really get in the face of the opposition on the ball, out with their defensive third and make life really difficult for them. But at Celtic, he did like players like Chris Wood coming off the bench. We had a guy called Georgios Giakoumakis, and again, similar to how you've seen him work at Tottenham, Solanke was quite a press-friendly forward, and then he would run him into the ground to bring on Richarlison. So I don't think Chris Wood's future is in doubt or anything like that. But what I'm beginning to wonder is, will he still be the starter under Ange? Now, I could see it. If he's got the energy and the legs, he'll start some games, maybe not start all of them. And if we just bring back into screen here the other options that are available, I think there's a lot of material here. There's a lot of raw material, a lot of player talent that could just be totally turned on its head, and you could see a whole new look front three. Because I've seen Dan N'Doye play up front for Switzerland, and I think his physical prowess, how big and tall and strong he is, as well as everything else we've spoke about, could lend him to being an attack centre forward. You could bring someone like the likes of Dylan Backwat in to play the right wing, and the left wing kind of takes care of itself. But if you were to do that, there's 4 strikers here that are going to be put out of joint, for not starting this one. So I find that on the unlikely side, but I definitely don't want to rule it out. Cali Muendo could certainly be the Ange prototype arrowhead forward type, but Taiwo Iwani is certainly that sort of profile. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a bit of an Indian summer, a bit of a second coming under Ange. And Igor Jesus, I'm just not too familiar with to really comment on beyond he could just be, you know, in the mix somehow, somewhere. But whether it be in Europe, at home, away, domestically, cup games, whatever, if we ever seen a front three that looked like this, it would not surprise me one bit. Similarly, if Cali Muendo was the one chosen to lead the line for the majority of matches and be that 60-70 minute substitution for Chris Wood, I could see that happening very easily, as well as Taiwo Iwani. But one thing that's clear with all the options in the attack and in defence is that Ange is going to be able to make quality substitutions all the way through the game. And this is the real kicker, this is the real asterisk on the difference he's had from Tottenham to Nottingham Forest, because although the Tottenham team, the best 11 could look good, the first choice defence and midfield and whatever could look okay, but their bench was constantly absent. There was never anyone of any decent level on the bench, whereas Nottingham Forest, we could probably spend a full hour just playing around with, oh well, what if you took out Douglas Luiz and you put in Sangar, what would that do? What if you put in Gibbs White on the left, coming in from the right? You know, there's a lot of things we could play around with here if there was to be, you know, when Ange gets in on the training ground and gets to read of the room and gets to know the players, he might fancy someone to turn up in a different position like we've mentioned. But I think no matter how he starts a game, what will be really interesting as well is how you see him regularly finish the game, because again, something we've seen at Tottenham and especially at Celtic is you get these I don't want to quite say scripted, but you'll see some very regular substitutions where someone like Hudson-Odoi could come off every 60th or 70th minute for Hutchinson or McAtee. Chris Wood could come off on the 60th minute, 70th minute of every game for another one of the strikers, so on and so forth. And that gives Ange's team an extra level on what makes Ange's team very, very good. It's we never stop, it's a high press, it's right in everyone's face. And when you've got high level quality depth to call from the bench, never mind just rotating between games or whatever, that's when Ange Ball can really suffocate, really strangle and knock out a lot of opponents. So I think this is going to be a match made in heaven. Marinakis, of course, is an acquired taste, isn't he? But that Greek connection between the two of them feels like the sort of bond that the owner wants to really instill some next level confidence into the manager. And maybe, you know, who knows what's really went on behind the scenes between the two of them. But it feels like Ange has got an owner that thoroughly believes in him. He's going to get good buy-in from the players. I just know players love Ange. And once the goals start flying in, once the points coming in, if the City ground is getting behind him as well, Nottingham Forest could seriously start an amazing, and I know last season's been good, you're on the way up anyway, but Ange could be the one that just takes it to that next level. And you know what Ange says, he always wins something in the second season. So let's see how this season goes, and I'm looking forward to following this with, you know, a really close eye, as it were. As well as that, I'll be looking forward to keeping a close eye on the comment section to see what your guys' thoughts and feelings are as well on the appointment of Ange, how the best 11 could look, maybe some different player solutions that might happen in the squad. Let me know what your thoughts and feelings are. On screen are now some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Hit a like if you did enjoy the video. Hype it up as well if you did enjoy it, Nottingham Forest fans. Stay out of trouble. Good luck for the weekend against Arsenal, and I'll catch you on the next one.